New year, new you. How about a new year and a better, happier, healthier you? Welcome back to the No Gray Areas podcast as we kick off 2025 with a two-part episode wellness series. In this first episode of 2025, I sit down with Dr. Melody Rodarte, a board-certified obesity and internal medicine specialist, for a great conversation about making choices for a better quality of life. Spoiler alert, she gives us powerful strategies for achieving all things health, wellness, and balance as we jump into this new year. Here we go. Melody, welcome back to the No Gray Areas podcast. So good to have you.
Good to be here.
So we're going to drop this early 2025. A lot of people are making decisions on goals and New Year's resolutions. And we know statistically that about 80% of those New Year's resolutions will be around health. And this is what you do. You're all about health. So what I want to do before we start getting into some specific questions, and for our audience, this is going to be, I think we're going to get a lot of like tangible ways that we can positively impact our health. But before that, I want to back up and get a little bit of your story, who you are, what you do, and specifically, I should have introduced you as Dr. Melody Rodarte, and why, as a doctor, you chose the specific field you went in. Because as I understand, as you're moving through education, eventually you have to kind of decide on your focus. What is your focus, and why did you decide on that?
My focus is internal medicine and specifically obesity medicine because I'll back up. I absolutely loved kind of learning everything. Your third and fourth year of medical school, you're doing rotations through everything. And I noticed myself being drawn back to the education part and seeing kind of being the quarterback that was watching everything else happen. Yeah. So I would love each specialty, but I didn't want to just stay in that because I wanted to then say, this is how you implement it for the heart, and this is for the kidneys, and this is for the brain. And so I thought, well, I'm just going to become an internal medicine physician because, one, I'm dealing with adults and I want to empower adults. I noticed very quickly that pediatrics, kids scared me, especially if they were like less than 2. Yeah. And I didn't like
so
it.
You knew that was out.
I knew that was out. I didn't want to deliver babies. I actually traded people out for delivering babies. I did the surgeries they could deliver. I was always like, oh my gosh, am I going to drop one as they come out? And so it became easy to become an adult doctor. And then I think I've always wanted to help people prevent disease. So moving into integrative, functional, holistic medicine became even easier, 20 years now into this. Like that's my forte. That's where I love it, because if you don't have disease progression, you are a better part of society. You are, you are able to live your life to its fullest.
So speak into prevention a little bit, because I love that, because I wouldn't be wrong in saying that a lot of medicine today, our Western medicine, is, you go in with something and it's almost like they put a little Band-Aid on it, but you're never really getting the source of it. When you talk about prevention, that's why I was so interested in having you on our podcast, because this is about choices, the power and complexity of human choices. And with prevention, we can make choices. So dig in that a little bit more. What do you mean by prevention?
So I love that you can actually go and instead of your typical, let's say annual, where you maybe just get your blood pressure, heart rate, and kind of a little bit of a physical exam and just basic blood work. Sure, that's great, but there's a bigger, deeper dive that you can do. There are extra tests that you can do. Especially when we find out what your family history is, where you grew up, what you've been exposed to. That starts to kind of, in my mind, go, okay, I'm going to do a bigger cholesterol panel. I'm going to go looking for other issues, because if I find them, I can say, look, you have the predisposition for X, Y, and Z. These are the things that we want to do to prevent X, Y, and Z. And in the past, we used to think, well, if you are genetically prone to X, Y, and Z, that's it. We have to just sit back, wait till it develops. And then guess what? We've got a drug to put you on. And I'm like, I don't believe in that. I want to know, okay, you have the predisposition. These are the things that we're going to do to prevent the progression and the expression of that gene. There are like 95% of your genes, you can actually help them express themselves correctly.
Really?
Yeah.
95%.
Yeah.
Because and then going back again to the medicine, the Western medicine, a lot of it is you're right. You're almost told like, okay, you come from a family, so instead of just saying X, Y, and Z, we'll use like diabetes, for
Right.
example, right?
Great one.
You come from a family that has diabetes, and so you're going to be a diabetic. But you're saying that there's a lot you can do to prevent that or to help that.
Right. It's true. And the biggest thing on that one is I love my colleagues, but why do we wait for the diagnosis of diabetes to start the education and to start the medications? Prediabetes is actually a code that we can use. Insulin resistance is a code. Like, why don't we start telling people you're showing insulin resistance, you're showing prediabetes. Let's stop the progression. This is what you need to do
What do
and
you
stay
mean
on
when you
top of
say a
it.
code that we can use?
This is the medicine part. Everybody wants to know, how do you bill? How do you bill the insurance? I don't take insurance now for since 2012, which is beautiful. But you're looking.
Can I come back on that
Oh
in a
yeah,
little bit? Okay,
for sure,
we'll come back
for
to that.
sure.
So keep
Because
going.
it's really important. I would love to talk about
Yes.
that. So I think, unfortunately, in medicine, physicians are so busy that they want an actual code that they can write to the insurance company to prove that you need a test or you need a medication or you need a follow-up. Or they're even trying to make sure they get paid correctly. And I left that world because I don't want to play by the insurance rules. I want to play by health rules. My patient sitting in front of me, what do you need to stay healthy? I don't want to implement things,
Yeah.
and that's where medicine is, in all honesty, I feel like there's a definite divide now. You're either for the patient or for big pharma and insurance companies, and you have to choose how you're going to practice.
Yeah.
I choose the patient in front of me. That's my choice.
So first of all, masterful how you did that. I said I'm going to come back to that question, and you rolled the answer into both questions. So that was masterful. Nice job. So you're saying that a lot of times, if you don't choose that, if you're going to choose the insurance, you're looking at the patients a lot of times, or you would be somewhat forced into looking at the patients sometimes, just figuring out what code you can get so that they can bill the insurance properly, or you can, whatever.
Yeah, unfortunately,
Yeah.
it is. And when I think about when I got into medicine to now, over the last 20 years, that has changed. And I think that's why there's a lot of physician burnout, is because physicians got into it to be healers. And then the business of medicine came about where, unfortunately, the patient in front of us is not the first, our first goal to treat.
Yeah.
It's how do they survive? So they're seeing 4 to 5 to 6 patients an hour because they need to meet their overhead because of what reimbursement looks like. So I stepped away from that, saying, nope, I want the patient in front of me to have my time. I want to use my expertise, and I want to empower my patient to have a better lifestyle. Because is it easier for me to say, oh, you're pre-diabetic, oh, you have hypertension, here's a prescription, I'll see you in 3 months. Yeah, that takes 5 minutes.
Yeah, a lot easier.
Yeah.
What was the process in you making that decision? So you said you stepped away from it. I'm assuming what you mean is you were in that. So you had played that other game, if we will.
Yeah.
Right? So was that a little bit of a leap of faith? Was that a jump for you that was difficult?
I can look back and tell you all of the jumps, because my first practice was a geriatric practice where Medicare actually came back and said, you're billing too much. We're not going to pay you for a month because you've met, that maximum payout. And I'm thinking to myself, how am I supposed to survive if I can't bill yet? You're telling me I have to wait a month to submit these, and then, or my biller would come back and say, you need to put these modifiers on there to get paid. And I just thought, I don't want to play this game. So I took a leap of faith and joined a bigger group and thought things were going to be better, kind of had it all set up. And again, with the change in medicine that happened between 2010 and 2012, my reimbursement was going to be dependent upon numbers, like what range of A1C do my patients have? And I'm thinking, well, why should I get paid on that? I mean, look at my notes. Did I prescribe the right medications? Did I prescribe the right meal plans? Back then, I was already doing meal plans for patients and exercise programs and, lifestyle modifications. And I thought, well, that's not fair.
You were already very much into the preventative side of it.
Yeah, I started off that way.
Yeah.
And so, again, I was like, I don't want to play that game. So I did. I had the opportunity to leave that practice in 2012 and really become proficient in obesity medicine. And I appreciate that opportunity. And then came about 2019, 2020, I was like, I really want to pull it all together. I was in too many places trying to do what I love. And so I took that leap of, okay, I'll open my own practice. Let's see how
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
goes.
Well, you mentioned a little bit about obesity. So they say statistically, isn't it somewhere around 2/3?
2/3 of America is either overweight or obese.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is? Now, I know that's a complex answer probably, but somewhat simplified, what would you think are some of the main reasons for that?
Honestly, I think we've taken exercise out of schools. We're not feeding our children correctly. And then the food service. I don't think we should have sugar added to certain things. We in the United States allow many more chemicals for, I'm going to make it super easy to say that, in our food than a majority of the rest of the world. And I believe it makes us sick. And I think that there's not enough education out there that food can be medicine and food can be poison.
Wow, that's a great line though, right there.
Yeah,
Food can be medicine and food can be poison.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, you think about, I mean, just, for some of the people that like cars or vehicles, you put bad gas in your car and it doesn't
It's not
work.
going to
Food is
run.
our fuel, right? It's what
Yeah,
fuels our body. So you're saying it can either fuel it in a good way, a positive way, or a negative way.
yeah.
Yeah. What are some solutions to that then?
I really believe that if you want to lead a healthier life, then lifestyle modifications. It's going to be up to you to seek professionals who really, really want to team up with you, and want to do the extra testing. I think there's so much. I think knowledge is power, and so like
Another great line. Knowledge is power. I
knowledge is
like that.
power,
Yeah.
and
With our health.
it's true. I think a lot of people, when they are discounted, they still stay with the same provider. And again, I love my colleagues. But if you don't understand how to help somebody lose weight and your answer is eat less and exercise more, you really shouldn't be treating obesity. I would rather take that referral from you and say, this is one of my specialties. Let me see that patient.
Yeah.
Let me help them out. So I want to empower patients to say, I'm going to seek providers that see me, that want to walk alongside of me. And I love the field of functional and internal medicine and functional medicine, holistic medicine, and integrative medicine, because we want to find the root. Why are you gaining weight? Is it perimenopause? Is it menopause? Is it menopause? Is your thyroid not functioning? Is it the type of food? You didn't even know that you were gluten sensitive or celiac, and now you're eating all of this and you're inflamed and you're trying to find other foods to work, and you're like, why am I gaining weight?
Yeah.
You can't exercise the same way. Like, I went through this 5 years ago. My exercise routine in my 20s and 30s is not the exercise
Yeah.
routine of my 40s.
I get it. I get it. Yeah. Yeah.
So sleep is so important. I think we don't sleep enough. Everybody is in this run society, and sleep is important. That's where the body restores itself.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of reasons why weight comes on or disease progresses. And so we have to kind of roll it back and say, what's one thing I can work on?
Yeah. Yeah.
But what can I do?
Yeah. Man, you threw out so many things. I could go so many different directions, but
Sorry.
sleep being one of them. Let's just stop there for just a moment. You're right. There's almost a cultural bragging about it because, as you know my story some.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't sleep for 20s, 30s, most of my 40s. I mean, I'd sleep 4 or 5 hours a night. And my thing that I would always say to people, and it almost felt good to brag about it. Like, I don't sleep. I have too much to do. I want to see too much. I said, man, I don't want to sleep away 2/3 or a third of my life.
Yeah.
If you get 8 hours of sleep, there's a third of your life gone. But since I've started sleeping better, thank you, I realized the 2/3 of your life that you are awake are so much better. So
You're
much
actually
better.
more productive.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Which, again, though, I would say is not the reason to do it because productivity has almost become a small g god in our culture.
True.
Right? But
True.
but you're right. I think you feel better. There's a better quality of life. But that's one of the things you're doing with preventative medicine then again. You're looking at really holistically, like eating healthy and eating the right foods and getting the right sleep and a lot of these things where you're saying, going back to what you said earlier, 95%.
Of your genes, you can help upregulate and downregulate correctly.
Okay, so again, with the core idea of this podcast being the power and complexity of human choice, I think that's so important for our audience to hear. That
Yeah,
puts a lot of power in their hands.
it does.
That you're saying the choices you make with your health, you can influence 95% of your genes.
Yeah. And if we go back to that first statement where food is medicine or food is poison, you're putting a cell signal. Like if you think of food that way, you're signaling to your body what to do with it. Like it's amazing. So
you're hitting on the food thing quite a bit, which I think is obviously important. We have to eat to survive.
yes.
But you're saying we poison ourselves or we can actually increase the quality of life and our health. What are some practical ideas you would give? So again, this is dropping early January. I think a lot of our listeners have said in just recent weeks, like, okay, I'm going to get healthier. I'm going to lose 5 pounds or 10 pounds or 20 pounds, whatever it is for them. What are some practical ways that you would just encourage our audience to start making different choices in their food?
Hey, we hope you've enjoyed this episode so far. Be sure to like and subscribe to not miss a future podcast. Okay, let's get back to the episode.
I think some of the easiest, what I usually tell my patients is, what if we try to eat out less, especially fast food? And why don't we look at what we're ordering from a fast food place as well? So you could go to a Chick-fil-A or, somewhere and get a
Don't tell me
salad.
you're going to take my fried chicken sandwich away.
You know what? Maybe just if that's your treat, I always
Okay.
say don't say cheat because then it brings shame. So
Okay.
if that's your treat and that's your favorite, have it once in a while,
I like what you just said, by the way, because I do use that. I say this is my cheat meal or my cheat, but
Yeah.
I like what you're saying. That just brings on shame a little bit. And then sometimes my cheat meal turns into a whole bag of chips or something. But
And then you're all like, oh, if I'm going to cheat today, I might as well, or this meal, I'll just cheat the whole day.
that's so how my mind works. Yeah. So, okay, but I interrupted you, but you were
No,
talking
it's
about
okay.
when you're going to a fast food,
Yeah.
like maybe the different choice that you make.
Yeah. So there's still other options. There are a few fast food joints. I can tell you I would not step foot in there. But maybe it's like you don't get the fries and the shake or the soda. If you want the chicken sandwich, you have the chicken sandwich. You're reducing a ton of calories by just having that and not having all of the extras that come with it. And then, if you're going to the grocery store, like you've probably heard, stick to the outer perimeters, because that's where all the whole foods are, like your fruits and vegetables and your meats, where all the processed stuff is usually in the middle. Kind of reducing processed foods. A big thing is reducing seed oils.
What's wrong with processed foods?
So they're mostly inflammatory. They're going to have a lot, like if you can't pronunciate some of the ingredients,
Yeah,
there's
which if-
something.
Yeah, which is a great point. Flip over whatever you just bought at the store and start reading the ingredient list,
Yeah.
and you can't pronounce most of them.
Yeah. Or if like sugar is the first line on there, sugar
Yeah.
shouldn't be the first ingredient.
Yeah.
Sugar doesn't need to be in certain things. My biggest pet peeve is sugar and peanut butter. There shouldn't be sugar and peanut butter. They
Yeah.
just need peanuts and salt or
Yeah.
peanuts.
George Washington Carver would be so happy to hear you say that. He's, for our audience that doesn't know, he's the one that came up with peanut butter, invented peanut butter, right? He's the peanut man. But
My favorite person in the world.
that's right.
Yeah.
I did not even bring up that name knowing that. But now you just mentioned, I remember we had a conversation before.
I love peanut butter.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
my go-to.
Yeah.
So you didn't hear me say you've got to, eat 500 calories. You didn't hear me say you've got to go on a fad diet. There's just little tiny things that you can do to start reducing calories overall. And these are calories you don't need. So if you focus on your proteins and your vegetables and maybe complex carbs, like you're not feeling stuck, like I've got to count all my macros and everything. You'll notice that you start to feel better by just kind of getting more whole food in.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of places that are popping up to help you with meal prep because, again, we come to being so busy and not everybody's wanting to cook. So there's a lot of places where you can pick your protein, you can pick your vegetable, you can pick your salad and kind of take it home and have it through the week.
Yeah. What with the food industry, why has that shifted so much in our country? Because you said this earlier and you're right. Like a lot of we allow so much more chemicals. So for example, I was traveling recently and you buy a loaf of bread here and it will last quite a while.
Mhm.
You go to another country where they don't allow all the chemicals, and you buy a loaf of bread and it's like 2 or 3 days later, it's going bad.
Yeah.
So where did our food industry go go off track with this. Like, I'm always blown away that I can buy something so much cheaper that has all these extra ingredients in it when this thing over here that has, salt, flour, and yeast or whatever, I pay more for that. But why is that?
I've listened to different people talking about it, and they kind of go back to the lobbyists, the farm industry, the farm. So I don't like to get political, but I think that's kind of where it lays, because I know for me, being a part of the Obesity Medicine Association, even starting back in 2012, 2013, we wanted to lobby of taking sugar out of certain foods and changing school lunches. And I don't know why. I mean, look at that. There were over 12 years now that I've been hearing the same push, and we're still stuck.
You're right.
So I
wouldn't think it'd be that hard to get healthier food in a school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My favorite story is my daughter gets to go to junior high, and she's so excited because they told her that there's going to be a salad bar at school. And she came home practically in tears the first day because she said, "Mom, it wasn't really a salad bar. It was that iceberg lettuce. There was one vegetable. It was a cucumber, and then they had ranch." She's like, I was excited. I was thinking, because you think back then there was like that, there was that store or that restaurant that had like the salad bar that went totally from one end to the other. She was thinking she was going to be able to pick and choose and make a true salad bar.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Well, food. So you talk about whole foods, real foods. One of the most important things, and that's where you're saying one of the practical things that we can do to just make healthier choices is stay in that. And
I would say if you've ever heard of like the Dirty Dozen or Dirty 15, Clean 15, like that actually makes a difference too. So when you can afford to do organic, that's even better, because there's less organophosphates and herbicides, pesticides, antibiotics used that way. So again, look at your budget. Make the small changes that you can. And every time you make another small change, it's going to make a difference to how your body is responding.
What do you think is one of the biggest things that stands in the way of people making good habits? So again, we're at the time of the year where people are probably listening intently to what you have to say, because they just a few days or weeks ago said, I'm going to get healthier. But as human beings, it's so hard for us to change habits. Yeah.
It is. I think it's with everything, right? Like working out, eating better, maybe finding meditation time, whatever it is. I love the book Atomic Habits, because
great book.
It talks about doing those small little things that then will add up. Because I will tell you, as a perfectionist, it's hard. Like if I write a list that's too big and I can't get through it, it makes me feel like a failure. So I've stopped doing that, and I only write down the things that I for sure can get down and done. And if I can, then I'll go look at the other list and what can I bring over. So I think that's
you are so much like my wife. Yes.
I know, that's why I love being friends.
We were laughing before we turned the cameras and the mics on how much alike you two are. But that she would do the same thing. Like if she makes a list and she's not pretty sure she can get through it, it's going to really bother her.
Yeah. I'll actually stay up later to try to get it done, or it's just amazing. So I think if we're talking about New Year's, I love to tell people it's not a new you. I want it to be a better you. Like, so what's one thing that you can do to better yourself? Because if every year you say new year, new you, then it's like, well, if I didn't become a new you, then I failed. It's going back to that shame or failure kind of thing. What's just one thing that you can do to better yourself? Maybe it's you stop soda. Yeah. Maybe it's, if you love alcohol, it's one drink a week and not a glass of wine every night. It's just amazing. Like alcohol is a carcinogen in itself as well. Even if it's just one drink, it can be that way. I think I just did a post where it's tobacco, obesity, and then next is alcohol as top carcinogens that you can avoid. For cancers. And so just pick something that you can do. If you eat out every day at work, maybe you choose to take your lunch twice a week and eat out 3 times. Yeah. Those are small changes that that will add up. And then you don't feel like, oh my gosh, I said I was going to stop soda, stop alcohol, go to bed earlier, get to the gym, and cook 5 meals a week. God bless you if you actually get it done in the first month.
Yeah, it goes back to that acronym SMART goals, right? Yep. Where one of them, the A in there is achievable or attainable. Yeah, that we do sometimes, especially in the beginning of a year, we write down 10 things that we want to do, and then we feel like we failed because we knew those 10. So you're suggesting just pick one thing that can start impacting, which does go back
Yeah.
to that book, great book, Atomic Habits, where he's in the book, he's proving actually
Yeah.
through science that sometimes making a couple of small changes will actually lead eventually to big change, other habits that will start changing and shifting, right?
Yeah,
Which
it's
is
true.
why you're recommending that. What are your thoughts on some of the medication that's coming out? Like, it's all over the news right now. I can't even pronounce some of these. But
So,
you
yeah.
have GLP-1, OZEMPIC?
Yeah,
Did I say-
Ozempic, Wegovy. So semaglutide is the generic name. And then Wegovy is for weight loss. Ozempic is for diabetes. It's got some other indications for cardiovascular disease and some others. But truly, it's just the same medication packaged differently. Same goes with Mounjaro and Zepbound. That is tirzepatide. And so
You have to learn a foreign
I
language
know.
to be a doctor,
Oh,
don't you?
and the third one that's coming out, like by the end of this, well, it'll be probably by January when this airs, retrotutide. Like I'm still trying to get that one down correctly to say.
You did pretty well.
And so these, I'm going to tell you, these are incredible. We call them AOMs, anti-obesity medications. I don't know if they should be first line. That's why I tell everybody I do personalized medicine. I look at the patient in front of me and decide which medication is best if we go that direction. But they have been a game changer. I also feel like they have been used and abused incorrectly. I've been very forward about discussing that this year because I don't believe anybody with the power to write a prescription should be just offering these medications.
Mm-hmm.
I think it should come with correct monitoring, meal planning, because I think why it's making a name right now is so many people have had so much muscle loss and complications, and it's because they're overusing it. They're not using it correctly. So I'm a big advocate for using the medication in the right person in the right time.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're my patient, I'm not letting you go to the point where you're not eating all day. You're telling me, this is great. I have no hunger. I'm not eating all day. I'm like, guess what? We're going to go down on your dose because I want you to have something called appropriate hunger.
Is that part of the thing that those medications do? Is like suppress your appetite?
Yeah, they really are great at reducing food noise and
Okay.
helping you feel full.
Okay.
Yeah.
But if someone's taking, that's your point, if someone starts taking it, if they prescribe too much or something, they're not eating all day. And now
that's not good.
that's not healthy either.
Yeah, because I think when then you're forcing yourself to eat.
Yeah.
And those who have had eating disorders or they have yo-yoed their whole life, and that's just really pouring fuel on the fire. So what I love is dosing these appropriately where you're back in control. Most patients will be like, I'm not reaching for the snack. I can just fill my plate once and maybe not even finish it. I want that appropriate nutrition, appropriate hunger. Like, oh, it's noon. I should be hungry. Not, oh my gosh, I've gone all day and now I've got to figure out what to eat. It's called appropriate hunger. It's really the key term that I use. And so these are incredible medications. They can be used.
Can I pause on that though?
Yeah.
Because I like that phrase, appropriate hunger.
Mm-hmm.
So this can go a couple of different directions, right? I like that.
Yeah.
What does that mean if you were sitting down with a patient and explain that? Because again, I've never had a problem with not eating. Mine's the other. So appropriate hunger, you would say, when I'm like my worst time, my most difficult time for me to be disciplined is when I'm watching Netflix on the couch. So I don't have there's no reason that I need to be like eating a bag of chips.
Yeah.
But for some reason, when I sit on the couch, start watching, that comes back. So it's triggering something. But that's where you would say, well, that's inappropriate hunger. You just ate dinner an hour ago, you shouldn't be hungry, right? That would be an example.
That's an example of it. And it's also like, we tie in that emotional side. If you're happy, if you're sad, like think about things like, oh, you got 100% on a test. Let's go get an ice cream. Oh, you had a bad day at school. Let's go get ice cream. Like we wanted
something that a lot of us parents didn't realize that we were creating bad habits in our kids.
Yeah. Instead of doing like an activity, like let's go for a walk, because then that releases endorphins and that will help you not, if you have a sad day or, let's go do something good for someone because you got all this energy because you got 100% on a test. Let's go do something for somebody. So, pointing, we won't go down that road, but I like those examples to give people. But when we really talk about obesity medicine, many people who have struggled since childhood or their teens, they don't know what it feels like to feel full or to not think about food all the time. And so these certain medications have really made it where they're like, oh my gosh, the food noise is gone. Like I'm not thinking about what's for breakfast, lunch, and dinner and for snack. I'm not watching to see how much you're eating to know that that's how I should be full because you're full, because I don't have that fullness receptor that goes off in me. So there's that piece. And when we add those medications, then sometimes they're afraid that they got hungry, because then they're like, oh, I'm not supposed to have hunger. And I'm like, no. What time did the hunger come on? And when you ate, when you ate, did it go away? You ate.
Yeah.
And so the appropriateness is having correct cues. It's time to eat. It's been 4 or 5 hours since you ate. And then, or the other time is like you feel full. I don't need to have a snack, or I don't need to keep eating until then those cues are screaming at you. I'm gonna, you cannot take another bite or it's all going to come up, kind of thing.
Yeah. What percentage, because you've seen a lot of patients over the years, what percentage of people would you say come in with inappropriate hunger? Because of bad habits or whatever. And it may not be an eating disorder. It could just be like what I was talking about, where you might call mine a disorder too, where I'm full. I'm full, or I'm at a restaurant and they bring the bread out. Oh, I love bread.
Or the chips and salsa.
Yeah, the chips and salsa. And I'm full, but I'm still eating. So I would say that's inappropriate, right? So what percentage would you say of people that struggle with that in some ways?
I'm going to say 100% of people. Really, think
I figured
about
it was going to be a high percentage.
Yeah.
100%. Really.
Because I think all of us have, because I think, especially if we're here in the U.S., food is abundant. Food is celebrated. So I think all of us in some realm are trying to conquer when we eat, what we eat.
Yeah.
It's not an issue for a majority of people, because they're like, oh, no, I'm full. I really don't need the piece of cake afterwards. I know they're having a special and the waitress really wants me to order, but I'll leave her a bigger tip, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so I think everybody does, because of the society that we live in. But I think maybe 55 to 65, because if we think of 1/3 of the U.S. is overweight, another third is obese, I think then we're really dealing with that inappropriateness. And let's go back to the food industry. Food has been made to have certain flavors that trick your brain to want it. So these biochemists are incredible at creating food that you can't get in nature. Tell me where you can get an Oreo.
You had to go to Oreos, Melody.
Or a Cheeto.
Or Cheetos. Two of my favorites.
Yeah.
But you're right. It's not out there.
No.
It's not out there.
You can't just eat one. They have made
No
this
way.
chemical profile that triggers a dopamine release that it's really hard to and we make fun of, we have commercials that are like, just let's see you eat one.
Yeah.
It's really hard.
Yeah.
And so it's easier to not have it than to try and just have one.
And this whole conversation, I think, is so important, because I'm a person of faith, and you're a person of faith. And because of that, I believe that we were created holistically. I mean, as human beings, we're the pinnacle of God's creation. We're separate from anything else because we're created in the image of God. He said, he put us in charge of this. He put us in charge of our own bodies, I think. And being holistic, he cares about every part of us, the physical, the spiritual, mental. So I love this conversation. Let me ask you one more question then. What about hormone replacement? Because that's another thing that's been talked about a lot in recent years. Maybe I didn't hear it earlier in my life because I was younger. Now I'm older, so it comes up a lot. But is that a newer fad?
And it's not a newer fad. It's coming to light because it was demonized for the last 20 years. The Women's Health Initiative came out in the early 2000s and scared the crazies out of, they just really scared us into not using hormones. And so we're trying to unwrap that. Those of us that sit in this field, like myself, who do bioidentical hormones, we're trying to right the wrong of the Women's Health Initiative. And there are several books. There are several people that are very forward-thinking and getting it. And I will say 2017, 2018, even the researchers came back and said, we were wrong. We got to write this. And yet we're in 2025 when this comes out, where I still have people telling me, no, it causes cancer, and I'm like, let's dive into the health study. Let's really go through it. But hormones are important. And I think, unfortunately.
How so? So talk to some of us.
They help
we
for
don't
our
know what hormones
metabolism.
really do. Okay.
Hormones, women have testosterone. Let's go there first. I think most people don't even know that women have testosterone. So men even have estrogen. Men don't even know that part of it, too. And so we have hormones in our bodies. They are linked with how we age. When do women start getting cardiovascular disease? Perimenopause and menopause, because their hormones, those protective hormones, are reduced. That's when they are more likely for osteoporosis. Men can get osteoporosis. That little bit of estrogen that's good for them and their bones starts to go down. So hormones are important for our metabolism. It plays a role with our thyroid function. The amount of visceral fat that we have, that's that around the abdomen. That's the kind that makes us sick. That's the bad fat around the abdomen.
That's the kind caused by Oreos and Cheetos,
Yes.
isn't it? Yes. Yeah.
And so hormones are important. And it's not to say that everybody needs to go on hormone replacement, but it is to say that I think checking them out and supporting the body is really important, especially if you're symptomatic. And the other portion of that too is, as you get healthier, your hormones can actually get better. Because
that's going back to one of those 95% things where you can start
Not
shifting
only,
that.
So when you have a lot of visceral fat, your hormones get stuck in the fat. And so I'll have a lot of people who will start working out, eating better, sleeping better, and their hormone levels start to go up naturally. And it's part of that, we just talked about our faith. Yeah. Our bodies are incredible.
Yeah.
And when you feed it what it's supposed to have, and when you treat it like the temple it's supposed to be, it's amazing how it'll respond.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times I just talk about using nutrition to activate those pathways to see what will happen. And then if we have some shortcomings, let's try natural first. So hormones are bioidentical. You don't need to use synthetic hormones.
So explain that again for some people who may not know what you just said.
Yeah. So let's take progesterone. You can do a micronized progesterone, or you can do like a progestin. Progestin is what caused the issue. That's a synthetic progesterone. And in the literature, unfortunately, you have to read really deep into it. Did they use a progesterone or did they use a progestin? So there's a difference here. So when you're talking to your providers, is like birth control, that's a synthetic estrogen, different types of estrogens. It's not an estradiol. It's not like what comes in the patch or from a yam, and everything. So they're seeing somebody who understands the difference is really important here, because it's not one size fits all. And you can get natural and prescription as well as, kind of over the counter.
Yeah.
So hormone therapy, we could do a whole section on hormone therapy, but it's important for men and women.
Yeah. Is it true in saying especially as we age?
Yes.
Okay, that would be true.
That would especially be true because we're not producing it, especially with the health of our nation right now. We are really deficient. We're seeing, we shouldn't be seeing perimenopause as early as we see it. And usually we would think, oh, this is something that we see in 50s. Well, we're seeing it as early as 35 now.
And you think that goes back to diet and obesity? Okay.
I really do.
Yeah.
Why are girls getting their periods earlier? I mean, again, whole different topic. So why are, it's there. So I think, if you have kids these days, teaching them, I love it. I didn't talk to my kids about having food that was good or bad. I just wanted to know, is this a good choice or is there a better choice? Because I didn't want them to think that I was villainizing certain foods, and I didn't want them to feel bad because they ate the Oreo.
Yeah.
I just was like, is that a good choice? We have stuff in our house. You've met my husband.
Yeah. Yes.
We don't have just, fruits and vegetables and meats. We've got some things. I've got ice cream in there.
Yeah.
But it's again, going back, is it a cheat or a treat?
Yeah.
Is it the day that I get to have my treat or not? Like, how am I doing? Am I using this because I'm upset? Or is it just, it's my day that I get to have my scoop of ice cream because it's Friday evening,
Yeah. I like that you said good and better. like good choices and better choices. There's good choices, better choices. That is a good way to put that, I think.
Yeah.
Helpful to put that. You know, one of the things that I've really noticed so far, kind of the theme that you've talked about, is the individualization. And I think it's important for our audience to hear, and then I want to get your input on this, to try to find a provider that is going to treat them with more of that, because everybody's different. Everybody has different family. You started off by saying that, and I've heard it come up a couple of times in your answers. You know, even when
Yeah.
you were talking about some of the medications that have come out to combat obesity, and you're saying, hey, for some it's effective and we got to work on doses. For some, they need to do some other things. So how would you recommend for our audience to try to find a provider? So if they live in the Phoenix area, they could probably Google you and figure to come to you, and I hope you get so much business now you have to send them off to some other people. But what about someone who maybe lives in a different state or a different area? How do they go find a provider that will have this holistic, individualized programs?
I would say, there are several like find a physician websites. Like if you go to functional medicine or integrative medicine or bioidentical hormones, and like you search for a provider that way. And then you could go to their website and see what is their philosophy? What are they about? What are the services they offer? And then I think with those who really love to do, they want to just have a conversation with their provider that they have now. They can say, look, these are some of the things I heard, what are your thought processes? And if that provider says, wow, these are great, let's, do you mind seeing me more often? Well, the answer should be yes. Like we're going to do medicine together. So, and if they say, no, I don't believe in any of this, then you go look for someone else, because there's enough of us out there who are getting louder and louder to know medicine should be personalized. It should be a team approach. And there's really no such thing as a dumb question when it comes to medicine. I learn so much from my patients, because let's say you came to me with a certain, ailment or disease. You're going to be night and day researching what's out there. So I feel it's my job to say, what are some of the neat things that you have found? Let me take a look, because I'm not researching it night and day. And so I'm
Interesting.
seeing this as a relationship of how do we get you better?
Yeah.
And I might say with my, with my professionalism, like, okay, this looks great. This I don't think about. Let's do this. Or I might then be able to say, I'm going to talk to your specialist, or I'm going to refer you here and tell them all of the work that we've done leading up to here, and let them take it from this point forward.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that medicine, like I said, like there's a fork in the road. So either you do want to become an active part of how you age, or you don't. So we have that choice. And so finding someone in your area that does this, and there are so many podcasts now that are out there, so you can do learning on this and then go to your provider.
Yeah, and I really heard you saying two things. Like, go find the right provider, and you gave us some practical ways to go do that. But then you put it back with us again on their choice, that actually we live in a time that's unprecedented in all of human history, that you can go dig in and find information. You can find a lot of bad information, wrong information. That's the problem with it. But the good side of it is you can do your research and really start digging into these things. Is there anything that we missed? So you think, like, there's someone driving their car right now, they're listening to us, they're coming into 2025, they've made some choices to get healthier. We've talked about a lot of things. Did we miss anything that you'd want to say to them?
As we're wrapping up this episode, be sure to leave us a 5-star review. And if you're watching on YouTube, leave a comment on something you'll take away. All right, let's hop back into the remainder of the episode.
No, I think this was, I thank you for letting me share my heart on this, because it's really, I actually hope
Clear as your passion.
I really hope there's actually providers and physicians that are listening to this who I actually can empower, that they can break away and be successful. Because I think a lot of us get into this and don't know that there's a business side to medicine, and we really are afraid of it and not knowing how to do it. We want to make a paycheck. We've paid so much to become a physician, And so I would say that's kind of what I would like to leave this with, because I think we've empowered patients and everyone else to really get active. But I really want to speak out to those who are in the healthcare profession. Like, go to the CME that your hospital won't pay for. Like, that's what I started to do. I started to go to the ones that were not the big national ones, per se for internal medicine, because I kept thinking, I'm learning the same thing over and over again, and it's not helping me.
Yeah.
So I started to go to regenerative medicine conferences. I started to go to integrative medicine conferences, hormone ones. I've even done ones that are on meditation and breathing and everything else, because I'm like, well, if I'm telling my patient to go get acupuncture and learn how to breathe, I might as well kind of look into this too. So I actually want, the last thing would be empower those who are in healthcare to seek other realms of education to empower themselves, especially if they are not happy with how they're practicing.
Great words. I just want to encourage our audience to take some of these things that you shared and put them into practice. I think my wife and I have talked a lot about, and that's why we met you and started talking with you. But we talked about it's about quality of life. Like, I know I'm going to die someday. Like, no one gets out of here without dying. I know I'm going to get older. I can't stop that. But while we're here, the time we have here, there's a lot of like the quality of life. And there are some things that are out of our control. There are some diseases we might get that are out of our control. But what you're saying is there's a lot we can control by the choices we make. So Melody, thank you so much. Thank you for what you're doing. I hope that those in healthcare will take to heart what you said. I would love to see things starting to change. And we are starting to see them change, aren't we?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Well, now the fun part. 2 truths and a lie. We'll see if you can stump me.
Okay. So I'm the first person to go to college in my family. I have won a karaoke competition. And I took French in high school and college to make me fluent in French.
Wow. Okay, so you won karaoke. You know, the only reason I'm going to say yes on that is I was joking about us doing some music thing at the beginning before we even turned the cameras and the mics on, and it didn't scare you. You actually almost embraced it. So I'm going to say the karaoke one is true.
It's actually the false one.
Oh,
I knew it.
You got me. Oh, you set me up with that one.
I did.
That was good.
I am afraid of singing
in
public. But in the car, man, I crush it.
Yeah, because no one cares. You turn it up loud enough, you can't even hear yourself.
Exactly.
I do that, yeah. Well, great job. You definitely got me on that one. Well, Melody, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it.
Wow, so many good wellness takeaways Dr. Rodarte left us with. Stay tuned for part 2 of this wellness series dropping in 2 weeks. Remember, this year isn't about a brand new you. It's about becoming a better, stronger, and healthier version of you. We'll see you next time.